Bueno, comunidad, no siendo más, damos apertura oficial hoy 22 de febrero del 2025, en nuestros 5 añitos de ScrumLatam Comunidad. Como todos los años, tengo el placer y el honor de hacer la apertura. Esta vez me acompaña mi compañera, coach, que ya tiene bastantes años, Sol Mari Castro, de Venezuela, vive en Chile.
Dile.
Y bueno, le traemos ahí, Sol Mari, te doy la palabra para que te presente y te conozca un poco.
Claro que sí, buenos días comunidad. Ya hay muchos que lo conoce, que nos conocemos, hay otros que no, pero aquí estamos, así que nada, bienvenido y feliz día, lo van a disfrutar, vamos a recorrer un camino, así que aquí estamos. Buenos días, ojalá enciendan las cámaras para ver esas caritas.
Claro que sí. Y bueno, no siendo más, queremos compartir este video que construimos con mucho cariño para todos ustedes. Cabe destacar que la canción del fondo lo hizo el hijo de Solmari, tiene 9 añitos y parece mentira, pero quedó genial. Entonces queremos compartirlo con todos los que estamos aquí. ¿Ok? Entonces voy a compartir mi pantalla para que veamos esta presentación. Ya va.
Así Rubén no se ve grande.
Sí, eso es lo que estoy viendo. Sorry. Déjame lo pongo aquí. Lo pongo aquí. Abro. Ahora sí.
Expándelo, Rubén. Bueno, ya. Ahí.
Con fuerza y pasión, inspiran y empoderan, esa es nuestra misión. Aprendiendo sin cesar, colaborando en unión, transformación sostenible en toda la región. En ScrumLatam juntos somos más, líderes en agilidad, nuestro impacto es real. No vamos sin parar, voces que escuchar, creciendo y aprendiendo.
Perdón. Es que le da su volumen.
Nuestra misión, aprendiendo sin cesar, colaborando en unión, transformación sostenible en toda la región. En ScrumLatam juntos somos más, líderes en agilidad, nuestro impacto es real, es real. No vamos sin parar, voces que escuchar, creciendo y aprendiendo, nuestro mundo a transformar. cada paso, crecemos sin cesar, impulsamos el cambio, la inclusión es vital. En ScrumLatam el futuro es ideal. Como ScrumLatam el futuro es ideal. Es ideal.
¿Qué les pareció?
Increíble que un chico de 9 haga una canción así, me mató. Felicidades.
Gracias, Guimar. Sí, felicitaciones, amigos.
Gracias.
Verdad que sí, gran trabajo. Bueno, comunidad, aquí nosotros, como sabemos, estamos cumpliendo 5 años. Esto ha sido un recorrido increíble que hemos trabajado todos juntos, como personas, como equipos, y que hoy no solo celebramos un aniversario, sino que realmente celebramos un compromiso, celebramos la pasión, celebramos el esfuerzo de cada uno de nosotros como miembros de esta bonita comunidad que se ha venido manteniendo durante toda esta trayectoria, todo este tiempo. De verdad que ha sido un compromiso, una pasión, un esfuerzo de cada uno de nosotros. Y nos hemos enfrentado a retos, hemos logrado grandes hitos y nos hemos enfrentado a impedimentos, a obstáculos, pero aquí nos mantenemos. Sabemos muy bien que hay muchas comunidades que no se mantienen durante el tiempo, pero ScrumLatam sigue generando el valor esperado en toda la región. Entonces, creo que hoy en día cada uno de nosotros tenemos la camisa puesta, tenemos la camisa de ScrumLatam y esperemos que no nos la quitemos durante muchos años más. Solmari.
Sí, claro. Bueno, cada uno de ustedes me encanta que estén encendiendo las cámaras porque así vemos las caras de ustedes, de nosotros que somos los protagonistas. Cada uno de nosotros ha sido indispensable en esta comunidad, desde los que comenzaron hasta los que nos hemos ido sumando en este camino y en este viaje de ScrumLatam. Porque hemos aportado, hemos construido entre todos y hemos tenido una misión. O sea, se ve ya cuando tenemos tantos años, se nota y se ve el compromiso y la misión que cada uno de ustedes tiene aportando y construyendo esto. Y esto va a seguir creciendo, sigue creciendo. Así que muchas gracias, ¿verdad, Rubén?
Tal cual como lo dices, Somari. Y lo mejor de todo es que esto apenas comienza. Son 5 años que pueden parecer mucho, pero realmente, ya va, dame un minuto, creo que me quedé congelado. Déjame poner la otra cámara para que me vean. Ajá. Son 5 años que pareciera que fuera mucho, ¿no? Pero esto apenas se está iniciando. Creo que vamos por la mitad del camino. Y nos quedan muchísimos más desafíos, muchos retos por afrontar y sobre todo mucha entrega de valor, mucho camino de aprendizaje, de formación y de entrenamiento. Lo bonito de ScrumLatam como comunidad que somos es que nosotros no pedimos a cambio, solo pedimos que las personas estén interesadas y participen. Nosotros no, todas las actividades que hacemos las hacemos totalmente gratuitas. Aquí no se cobra nada por nada. Entonces, creo que la comunidad no es solo una comunidad, es un movimiento que vamos a seguir creciendo, evolucionando y que esto no fuera posible por cada uno de ustedes. Cada uno de ustedes, los que estamos aquí presentes, hacen realidad este sueño, en que sigamos creciendo, evolucionando, desarrollándonos en nuestro día a día a nivel personal y a nivel laboral. Sol Mari.
Claro que sí. Mira, me encanta que estén reaccionando aquí por el chat. Me encanta, sigan reaccionando. Aquí están las reacciones y por el chat, porque así es que hay que celebrar. Tenemos nada más que celebrar esto hermoso, esto tenemos que celebrarlo con orgullo. Muchos de los que estamos aquí sabemos el compromiso, la misión que tenemos, el tiempo que dedicamos a la comunidad en aprender, porque aprendemos muchísimo nosotros como profesionales, como personas, y también estamos dándoles a otros la oportunidad de aprendizaje también. Entonces, somos un equipo, somos la comunidad, así que celebremos orgullosos, sigamos con la misma entrega, con la misma energía, con el mismo power, con todo el compromiso, con esa entrega que hay muchos que estamos aquí, que le dedicamos tanto tiempo a esto bonito y es porque estamos alineados a este propósito, a este mismo propósito. Así que nada más con eso ahí celebremos y ¿cómo vamos a decir Rubén aquí? Felices 5 años, ScrumLatam. No te escucha, Rubén. No te escucha.
Felices 5 años de ScrumLatam comunidad. Pero bueno, ya va. Nos quedan 10 minutos, 15 minutos. Queremos escuchar sus comentarios, sus experiencias. Ahorita le preguntaba a Antonio, le preguntaba no recuerdo a otras personas que estaban aquí presentes, el tiempo que llevan, cómo ha sido esa experiencia, cómo se sienten. Sí, sí nos gustaría recopilar un poquito de estos 5 años. Hagamos esto como un conversatorio en estos últimos 10, 11 minutos que nos quedan.
Exacto, levanten la manito
Me
y abran el
gustaría, me
micrófono para
gustaría,
escucharlo.
Mari, Jackie, que es fundadora conmigo, es cofundadora conmigo, me gustaría escucharla porque ella vivió conmigo estos primeros 5 años, el primer añito, Jackie. Cuéntanos esa experiencia, cómo sientes ahora de aquí a 5 años, desde que iniciamos a la fecha de hoy, cómo hemos venido evolucionando.
Pues mira que precisamente dije, hoy voy a aprovechar y voy a tomar una foto y y la voy a publicar, yo no publico mucho. Y eso es como cuando uno se siente, o sea, acá suena chistoso, Rubén el papá y yo la mamá, de una idea que salió así como no tenemos las respuestas, tenemos que buscar ayuda para saber cómo aplicar de forma asertiva Scrum. Y el otro día, precisamente hablando con Ron, yo decía, oye, qué increíble que o como equipo hayan podido conectar a Jürgen, porque esto jamás lo imaginábamos. O sea, y pensar, mirar las cantidades de personas, porque son muchísimas personas que se conectan en vivo después, o en tantos países que hay ahorita, los tantos aliados que hay. Yo no sé si Rubén, algún día dijimos, qué rico, pero pues empecemos a ver qué pasa porque ni sabíamos si íbamos a tener quórum para los martes. Empezamos reuniéndonos 4 personas y a pedir auxilio. Esto creció así. Y era tarea todas las semanas. Entonces yo me siento yo es que no, es como orgullosa y muy contenta de lo que se ha logrado, porque esto es lo que aporta cada uno de su experiencia, de su conocimiento. Y algún día, y todos los años yo creo que lo decimos, es que cada persona, cada organización y cada equipo es único y nos exige por más conocimiento que tengamos, por más expertise en que tengamos, sacar lo mejor de nosotros mismos. Y eso es lo que nos permite seguir creciendo, ¿no? Es lo que decíamos, hasta ahora son 5 años, pero como a la velocidad del mundo, la velocidad de la tecnología, la velocidad del agilismo, esto nos va a seguir teniendo acá. Yo decía, oye, qué rico, desde hace 5 años, porque yo les confieso, fue 6 años que nos conocimos, Rubén, yo no tenía la menoría del agilismo. Y desde ahí yo sí lo amé, porque pues mi mundo era la parte de desarrollo humano y entré precisamente a conocer el mundo y poder ser más asertivo. Entonces para mí es un gusto estar de aquí de nuevo y poder compartir este gran crecimiento y por la invitación y seguir generando todos esos espacios con tantas personas.
Muchas gracias, Jackie. Muchas gracias. Parece mentira, ¿no? 6 años. El tiempo pasa muy rápido. O sea, bueno, pero nos mantenemos igual. Creo que estamos igualitos, no hemos cambiado, estamos aquí y también,
Afortunadamente.
afortunadamente, y también un agradecimiento a aquellas personas que todavía nos acompañan desde hace 6 años también, y que los que se han venido sumando el año pasado y este año. Ojalá nos acompañen 5 años más, 8 años más. La idea es que esta comunidad nunca desaparezca. La idea es que esta comunidad siga creciendo, siga evolucionando. Y esto nació de un grupito pequeño de WhatsApp. Éramos 6, 7 personas en WhatsApp, era pequeño. Y ahora somos más de 9.000, 8.000 personas. Y lo bonito de esto es que también hacemos networking, conectamos con personas. Yo he conocido muchísimos referentes, he hecho muy buenas amistades. Tengo invitaciones a México, a Chile, y ojalá hagamos eventos presenciales, que no sea todo virtual, algo en Chile, algo en Argentina, en Colombia, por haber nacido la cuna de ScrumLatam. Aquí vamos a inaugurar en Colombia, pero ojalá este año se haga realidad ese sueño. ¿Alguien más que quiera compartir su experiencia de la comunidad, que tenga tiempo o que haya comenzado ahorita nuevos? Sí nos gustaría escucharlos. A ver, nos quedan
Yo he
10
empezado
minutos.
nuevo. Hola,
Ajá. Hola, hola, te escuchamos. ¿Quién nos habla por aquí?
sí,
Herbert.
Herbert. Bueno, sí, yo
Herbert.
llevo una semana en la comunidad, pero con mucha alegría y mucha motivación porque veo que son bueno, ya llevo varios años aquí en España y trabajando aquí y justo, ¿no? Hay comunidades aquí, pero sí es una grata experiencia y muy bonita que también hay una comunidad en Latinoamérica, no había encontrado ninguna y me ofrezco también para acá tenemos mucho contacto con los partners de SAFE, de Scale Agile, y entonces para poder participar en una ponencia seguro en algún momento y ya también me ofrezco a poder colaborar en lo que pueda con la comunidad.
Muchísimas gracias, Herbert. Excelente. Qué bueno escuchar eso de parte tuya. Estás anotadísimo.
Así,
Anotadísimo.
anotado.
Vas a aportar muchísimo. Igual Norma, ¿no? Norma ahorita nos dijo que también estás anotadísima.
Yo tengo de conocerlos, ¿cuántos minutos? 45 minutos, señores. Y estoy impactada, o sea, estoy de verdad, estoy parte de otras comunidades, acá de la comunidad de Aachen, Scrum-Tisch, Aachen, que es gran Alemania, de la de Colonia, de la de Aljair Sur en España, o sea, comunidades hay muchas, pero tengo que decirles sinceramente que esta es muy divertida y muy rica, muy rica. Un placer y en lo que pueda ayudar, también. Safe, con otros frameworks, Management 3.0 para recursos humanos, para lo que ustedes quieran, Kanban, OKR, lo que ustedes quieran escuchar de cómo se hace acá por estas empresas, pues me avisan y nos preparamos.
Muchísimas gracias, Norma. Anotadísima también.
Buenísimo, buenísimo. Es igual lo de que comenta Norma, cómo llegar al otro, cómo se ve desde otra parte en Europa, cómo lo trabajan, que es diferente aquí a Latinoamérica.
¿Verdad?
Sería genial
Bueno,
este año.
Conoce
hola.
un poquito
eh,
esa cultura. Mari, hola.
bueno, primero quiero agradecer. Yo también participo en muchas comunidades y esta la conozco hace más de un año, creo. Y la verdad, primero me ha complacido muchísimo el nivel de los speakers, la generosidad de todos, de compartir, bueno, y la persistencia, ¿no? En distintos días a veces no puedo asistir. La de los martes siempre me encanta, pero me coincide. Pero la de los viernes es un sacrificio, pero me quedo tan feliz, la verdad que la que sí, y bueno, encantada de compartir lo que eh, yo he vivido en distintos países. Ahorita vivo en Estados Unidos, es diferente. Allá tenemos la cuna de la tecnología. Y en este momento estoy en España. Entonces, la verdad que tengo una visión bastante completa de los distintos lugares iba a decir de planeta, pero suena así como, no, solo Latinoamérica, Estados Unidos, España. Hasta allí, y bueno, estoy bien encantada de participar y a Rubén, wow, encantado, y además me di cuenta que somos paisanos, porque soy venezolana, así que bueno, a la orden para lo que necesiten.
Gracias, Mari. Un orgullo. Bonitas palabras. Muchas gracias por ese mensaje y por ese apoyo. Ya tienes tiempo acompañándonos y yo creo que este año va a ser algo diferente. Se nos vienen muchísimas cosas. Y por cierto, ahí les adelantamos el próximo sábado, con Mari y yo les vamos a compartir lo que se viene, las cosas nuevas, los cambios, lo nuevo que se viene a ScrumLatam. Porque todos los años tenemos que ir evolucionando, co-creando, innovando, y para el 2025 tenemos otras sorpresas. Sobre todo el tema de los squad internos, que va a cambiar muchísimo, que no me quiero adelantar, pero el otro sábado se lo vamos a presentar.
Te iba a decir,
Bueno,
Rubén, no adelantes mucho, pero hay algo que por ahí está sonando, si viste, hay muchas cosas que queremos expandirnos ahí y los objetivos que vamos a mostrar y esto que se está dando está buenísimo, está alineado a eso que queremos, a seguirnos expandiendo.
tal cual, tal cual. Bueno, nos quedan 5 minutos. ¿Alguien más que quiera compartir su experiencia? Por aquí veo a Diego Bergolini. Diego, un abrazo, querido, ¿cómo estás? Diego siempre nos acompaña en el aniversario. Nos gustaría escucharte, Diego, un poquito ahí. ¿Cómo te has sentido? ¿Por qué siempre nos acompañas? Porque eso para ti es impelable, siempre estás aquí.
No, cortito, no quisiera poder robarle la palabra. Creo que Antonio también quería hablar recién. No, yo simplemente agradecerte, Rubén, y el equipo, o sea, sobre todo, principalmente lo que decían por ahí, como lo de la generosidad, la comunidad, lo de entregar por ahí sin nada a cambio. Así que, nada, un poco eso, ¿no? Como contribuir un poquito a eso que ustedes con mucho esfuerzo van construyendo día a día y año a año. Así que felicitaciones. Y nada, hasta ahí cortito.
Gracias, Diego. Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Antonio,
Ahí, un momentito, Rubén, ahí, bueno, ahí están comentando igual por el chat, están dando muchas felicitaciones y hasta nos han dicho que cambiemos el nombre, ya creo que eso entró en una discusión por ahí, pero nació como ScrumLatam y así se quedó, pero no solamente es Scrum, es de agilidad, es más allá, es del ser y el hacer en cuanto a agilidad, para que se entienda, porque ahí están escribiendo, a lo mejor hay unos que son muy nuevos.
bueno,
Y también Antonio quería comentar que levantó la mano.
No, no, bueno, yo siempre hablo un montón. Sí, la levanté cuando Rubén ahí nos invocó, pero al igual que Diego, y gusto ver, oye, encantado de ver tantas caras conocidas. Espero verlos acá en Chile por ahí septiembre, octubre para el Ágiles Latam. Bienvenido a todas las personas ahí a este evento latinoamericano que tendrá sede en Chile en esta oportunidad. Y no, solo quería rescatar, empatizo mucho con hacer comunidad, necesita una bujía. O sea, las comunidades para que prendan, para que crezcan, para que generen el impacto que genera ScrumLatam, necesita de esas bujías que estén tirando la chispa, que hagan andar ese motor. Así que no, tremendas felicitaciones ahí a todo el equipo, porque es un equipo, esto solo no sale. Así que felicitaciones a todo el equipo que está tras bambalinas, ¿cierto? Tirando ideas, proponiendo cosas, acompañando como moderador, acompañando, ¿cierto? Para que todo sea posible. Porque hay veces que personas que no están dando charla, que no están a lo mejor compartiendo algún contenido o alguna experiencia, pero siempre están presentes, están acompañando, a veces como moderador, a veces en alguna reunión tirando ideas, y todo eso es súper necesario para hacer esa vida de comunidad. Scrum también es una comunidad más encima que tiene el desafío que es en línea. Las juntas presenciales, entiendo, han sido muy poquitas. En el cara a cara se da otro roce, entonces con mayor complejidad tiene convocar todas estas personas para poder generar ese contenido, compartir ese aprendizaje y finalmente es mejorar el mercado. Las organizaciones son mejores gracias a la experiencia que cuentan algunas personas. Yo lo tomo, lo llevo a mi organización y finalmente estamos haciendo una mejora del mercado. Eh, el manifiesto ágil parte diciendo, estamos descubriendo nuevas formas de hacer las cosas. Esto no termina hoy día. Cada vez, bueno, Jürgen, por ejemplo, quien va a estar unos minutos más, siempre está recopilando contenido y generando, ¿cierto? Algo distinto con nuevas propuestas y nosotros vamos refinando esto que en algún momento hablamos de proyectos, incluso en el manifiesto se habla de proyectos. Hoy día ha ido evolucionando a una mejor gestión de productos y nada, yo felicito a todas las personas y sigan sumando. Los que vienen por primera vez, créanme que aquí hay un montón de experiencia de gente que les puede servir para mejorar también su organización, tomar esa idea para su organización. Así que felicidades, ScrumLatam.
Gracias,
muchas gracias.
Antonio.
Muchas gracias, excelente. Bueno, Solmari, nos quedan 2 minutos y por aquí ya
Gracias.
vemos en sala al gran Jorgen Apelo. Welcome,
Ya
Jorgen.
está aquí,
Welcome
ya
to the
está
party.
aquí.
Sí.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Ok, nos queda 1 minuto. Creo que ya estamos listos. La invitación, por favor, quédense hasta el cierre. En el cierre les tenemos también sorpresas. Vamos a hacer unos sorteos, vamos a hacer unos anuncios. Vamos a presentar en un video pequeño nuestra página web, nuestro lanzamiento por fin de la página web ScrumLatam. Así que quédense, que va a ser 3 de la tarde hora de Colombia, 5 de la tarde Chile, 4 de la tarde Venezuela, 2 de la tarde México. No siendo más, le doy el pase
Vale.
A Vanessa para que presente nuestro keynote de la mañana de hoy. Vanessa, let's go.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Welcome and thank you all for being here with us today. So let's kick off with a keynote. Just a quick reminder, we'll leave a 5-minute space at the end of the session for questions. So now let's give a brief introduction about our speaker before we begin. With the hashtags Agile to AI, Future of Work, and Human Robot Agent, Jürgen Appelo, author, speaker, entrepreneur, and radical synthesist, challenges outdated management thinking and helps leaders rewire their organizations for AI-driven leadership, autonomous agents, and algorithmic management. Recognized by Inc.com as a top 50 leadership expert, Jürgen breaks conventional boundaries between human ingenuity and AI, leadership and governance, stability and innovation. Through stories, games, and tools, he pushes organizations to embrace human AI teamwork and anti-fragile structures. From Management 3.0 to Human Robot Agent, his books explore leadership, change, engagement, and the future of work. As the founder of the Anfix company, he continues to shape the next era of AI-powered organizations. Jürgen, the community gives you a warm welcome. Thank you for being here with us today, and the mic is all yours.
All right. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Hello, everyone. Greetings to all of Latin America. It's been not long ago that I was in Brazil. I look forward to another trip soon to Chile, and I have plenty of trips to South America. So many friends there. Yeah, and I'm happy to talk about the new work that I have been involved in. So let me share my screen and guide you through. Okay, there we go. Share. Voila. All right. So you should be seeing the opening slide, Human Robot Agent. Actually, I'm sure some of you know me from the work that I did before on Management 3.0 and Managing for Happiness, Startup, Scale Up, Screw Up. Those were my earlier books. My last book was a novel, Glitches of Gods. I finished that one little less than a year ago. By that time, of course, artificial intelligence was available, ChatGPT and other programs, but I had all written my entire novel at the end of 2023 when ChatGPT became available, but I had not published it yet. I was working on the tweaking the sentences and everything. So I thought, okay, let's use ChatGPT to see what it thinks of my book. So I gave it every scene, every sentence, and that was incredibly useful because it helped me write better English and offer better suggestions for the punctuation and everything. So I thought, this is great. With my next book, I'm going to go all in. And in that sense, I seem to be a bit of an exception among authors because I am part of a couple of Facebook groups of writers and book authors. And most of them basically think that artificial intelligence is bad because of plagiarism and copyright issues, etc. But I think there's no way back. This is the future. So it's best to just learn to be authentic and personal, etc., while embracing artificial intelligence in my work. So that's what I have done with my last book, Human Robot Agent. It comes out in 2 weeks, early March. And I will show you the links at the end of this presentation on how to get the book and the preview of the book. And as I said, I went all in. So I'll give you an example of how I approached it in the last couple of months while I was writing on the book. So on the one side, I always get confused when I do webinars. Is it the left side or is it the or is it the right side? On the one side, you see ChatGPT over there, I think, and Claude. I use those basically to either write a draft or I write a draft and then they give me feedback on it, or they write a draft and then I reorganize the draft, etc. Until we have a basic blog post or a basic chapter of a book. And then I go to Gemini and Perplexity, and I use those to check everything. Like, is it true? What are the hyperlinks that I can use for this chapter, and so on, until the whole thing is nearly perfect. And then I move to the next two, which are Pro Writing Aid and Originality AI. And they check for the punctuation, the little details, and they tell me whether there is a sentence or something that is identical to something that someone else wrote somewhere on the internet. So I don't want that, because I don't want people to think that I do plagiarism, that I steal other people's work. So these AIs help me with that kind of work. So you see that I use at least six different AIs in my work for different reasons. It's a bit like having teammates, a team of artificial intelligences. And I sometimes feel that I am the slowest one among our team, because I am just a human and my brain is not as fast as the teammates around me. Like, for example, new features came out in Gemini and Perplexity and ChatGPT, and now also Grok of Twitter X, that do deep research. So you can someone please turn off all the microphones? Thank you. So you can delegate the research for a book chapter or an article, and in minutes I can get a whole lot of input from many different sources, while usually this took me hours to do myself. So that saves me a lot of time. Let me explain to you what the benefits are of using AI. I think one of the main benefits are creating better experiences for our clients. That's for me, for my readers, for you, it is other kinds of clients. Because with artificial intelligence, we can create highly personalized encounters that enhance the customer experience and increase customer engagement. And I'll give you an example of that. You probably already know that on platforms such as Amazon, when you go there and you are a customer of Amazon, then Amazon shows you the books for you based on your preferences, based on your shopping behavior. So in my case, it shows me science fiction and fantasy books, because that's what I usually buy. And it shows me some artificial intelligence books, because those are also books that I have been reading. So Amazon customizes the experience for me. And that is the future of any business, is to offer hyper personalization and hyper customization for each individual client. So instead of producing 1,000 items of the same thing and then finding customers who would like to have that 1,000 things, no, you create things one by one for each individual person. It can be a different experience. That will also mean that the idea of the persona, for example, in design thinking, and in Agile, we use the concept of the customer persona sometimes. It sort of disappears, because a persona is basically a prediction of who is your most typical customer. Well, Amazon doesn't have a persona, because Amazon has millions of customers and they each get a custom experience for them thanks to AI. So the idea of persona stops being useful, actually. But then we can go even a step further, because when you buy one of these books, then suddenly you get a book that is identical to everyone else. Everyone else who buys that book gets exactly the same copy, exactly the same text. But why is that? Because I can publish myself. I do self-publishing now. So I upload the PDF that I created together with my book designer to Amazon, and Amazon actually prints also the books on demand. So for each customer, one copy is printed. So why not personalize that? It will be pretty easy to have a couple of variables in the book, like say, dedicated to customer name. And then we could print the customer name in the book. You could have a unique copy with the book printed for you. That's your copy. It says there in the book, printed for you on demand. I think we're going there. I think within a few years, we will see books that are printed per person that can be customized. Maybe you want an additional chapter, or you want your name in the dedication or whatever, because technically it is not that difficult. You can have some variables in the PDF and Amazon could fill them in before printing. That is hyper customization. That is getting rid of personas, basically, and making books per person. And that's just my example from my line of work, but you can imagine how that applies to your kind of business. Like Tesla is already doing this. Tesla has shown the way, because Tesla makes cars per person.
Jürgen,
What's going on?
okay, we can hear you. We can hear you now. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, something went wrong. So Tesla has already shown that they can make cars per person. Every car coming out of the Tesla factory is for a specific customer, and they have ordered very specific details and customizations. We can do that with books. I mean, if we can do that with cars, we can do that with books, we can do that with clothes, we can do that with anything. Another interesting thing, and this is something that Henrik Nieberg pointed out. He is also European, like me. He's in Sweden, I'm in the Netherlands. He wrote a book about agility in the age of AI, very interesting. And he said, we can create mock users by asking AI to model the role play of particular types of users. So we could do mock user research and mock interviews. And basically think of, you have a product and you use AI to create 100 different personas, maybe 1,000 different personas. And all those AIs start using your product and give you feedback on that product. Is it good for them or not? What are the problems, etc. That is testing on steroids. It reminds me of what I did with my books. I used multiple AIs as beta readers. Basically, I used Gemini, I'll give you an example of that, Perplexity, and other AIs to give me feedback on my writing. And they are much faster than beta readers. I have worked with beta readers in the past. Let me tell you how that usually went. So when I wanted testers for my books, I asked online who wants to be a beta reader, and then maybe 100 people sign up. And then chapter 1, 100 people get started, and I get feedback from 100 different people, far too much. And then the further I get in the book, the fewer people remain, because, well, many people do not have the discipline to read a whole book. So by the time I got to the last chapter, only one beta reader was left. So the further I got in the book, the less feedback I got from my beta readers. That is useless for me as an author. And also, I had to wait several weeks to get replies from people. With AI, I can get feedback instantly from multiple AIs, and they don't give up. They go from start to finish, and they never give up halfway, saying, oops, I'm sorry, I don't have time anymore. No, they're much more reliable than beta readers. So in a sense, that is the same thing. I don't use beta readers anymore. I use AIs. That is the same principle. I'll give you an example here with Gemini. I have two types of beta readers in Gemini. One is the law finder, and the other is the fact checker. The law finder works as follows. So when I write a text and I write about something, then the law finder is the beta reader that says, hey, that sounds like the Peter principle that you're talking about, or hey, this could be related to the Hofstadter's law, or this could be related to the Dunning-Kruger effect. And this is super useful for me as a writer, because it gives me suggestions for things that I should link to, or things that I should mention in my writing that sometimes I'm not even aware of. I'll give you a very interesting example. Sometimes I make a joke and say, I am a short-term pessimist and a long-term optimist. Every day, everything goes wrong, but in the end, all will be fine. That's sort of my attitude in life. And when I wrote that, Gemini Law Finder said, oh, that sounds like the Stockdale paradox. I had never heard of the Stockdale paradox. So I started reading about the Stockdale paradox, and indeed, this turns out to be the idea of treating every day as a difficult challenge, but believing that the future is good. And I didn't know about that. So this is a beta reader helping me make my book better. The other example is the fact checker. Well, that is an obvious type of beta reader, of course. It just tells me this is correct, this is correct, this is correct. This is not really correct. Maybe you want to double check that. Sometimes I may exaggerate a little bit in my writing, and then it says, maybe you should tune that down a little bit. So it helps me be a better writer from the perspective of the facts in my writing. These are just two examples. I can have 50 of them, specific beta readers that give me specific type of feedback on my product. You can do that too with your products. And then when you do that, you can delay the point at which you go to your real customers. So, for example, right now with my book, I have almost finished writing. Now the proofreaders start. Those are the real humans. They come last. And I don't have to bother them with the very simple things, the simple mistakes that the AIs can already find. It was the same with the copy editor. The copy editor of my book just finished, and the copy editor is a human. But before I went to the copy editor, I had already used Grammarly and ProWriting Aid and ChatGPT and Claude, multiple AIs. So the text was already pretty high level before I went to the humans, because the humans have not enough time, they get tired if they have to do too much work, etc., etc. And it's the same with your customers. Try to rely as much as possible on AIs, so you reserve the demos that you do with customers for the more interesting conversations. Don't waste your customers' time with the stuff that the AIs could already find for you. So that's one example how I use AIs. And but there's more. As I said, I now have a digital team around me, and that is sort of the future. Henrik Niebuhr also pointed it out. He said 1 or 2 people with strong prompt engineering skills, they will outperform traditional agile teams. He has already noticed that with his team, where he is just 2 people and a bunch of AIs, and he is faster than he was in the past with 5, 6, or 7 people. It's the same for me. I wrote my previous books in 1,000 hours or more. Actually, my novel cost me 4,000 hours, but a business book is about 1,000 hours for me. My last book I wrote in 500 hours. That's half of the time that it cost me. And I think it's the same level of quality. Why? Because I have 6 AIs working together with me, giving me feedback, making drafts, etc., etc. And I want to get faster and faster. I want the next book to cost me 300 hours. I want the book after that to cost me 200 hours. How can I accelerate? How can I keep doing this faster than before, while being just one person? among a team of robots. So this is a trend that the team size is shrinking. Also in the agile community, people have noticed that teams are getting smaller and smaller. Maybe you remember that originally in Scrum many years ago, they said that the ideal team size is 7 plus or minus 2. I had already changed that with Manchester 3.0 when I said the ideal team size is 5 plus or minus 2. That was smaller. I think now the ideal team size becomes 2 people plus or minus 1. So 2 people plus or minus 1. The rest is AIs around us. But that is interesting because in the extreme case, like me, I'm now 1 person with 6 AIs around me. There's a psychological impact here. Who am I going to drink a coffee with in the afternoon? I cannot drink a coffee with ChatGPT because he doesn't like coffee. So where do I go? I have to get out of my house and go to the local coffee bar, and I might have a better relationship with the barista than I do with my AIs. So that also is the same in organizations where we will have to figure out how do we keep the human touch. If you have multiple teams of 1 or just 2 people and a bunch of AIs, they still crave the human touch, the human communication with other humans. So you may have to create new guilds or forums or collaborative structures for the humans in the organization, because the AI agents are not going to care about coffees or cigarettes or something like that. Another thing that I've noticed is the increase of reteaming, short teams of a short duration, as they have in the airline industry, for example, where you know how it works with an airline. There's a team for a couple of hours, maybe a day, and then when the flight has landed, the team is done. They form another team for the next flight. This is called reteaming. And reteaming is becoming a thing also in other industries. They're already doing that with fire departments and in hospitals, etc. But also in software, we see more and more reteaming happening. For example, fluid Scrum teams, the FAST framework. There are several things happening, swarming at Tesla, at Redgate Software. There are multiple companies experimenting with people swarming to the objectives where they want to contribute for a short amount of time. That could be a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, and then they're done. And they go to the next objective in another formation with another team. In this book, Future of Work, it says that the global workforce must function as a cohesive unit, which requires the development of teaming skills among managers and employees. So the ability to coordinate and collaborate even in the absence of stable team structures. So no long-term teams anymore. Why not? Because it makes you stuck in an organizational structure. It makes you not agile if you require the teams to stay the same for a long time. And why does AI have an impact on this? Well, because of cognitive load. The reason that we rarely had dynamic teams in software is because of all the knowledge in our heads about the current software project. It is very costly to switch from one context to another because you have to swap in and out a lot of information in your head to switch to another context. But think of a doctor in a hospital or a surgeon who moves from one operating room to another, from one patient to the other. The doctor does not have all the data about the patient in his or her head. That information is in the machines. It is in the AIs. It is in the systems that the doctor uses. So the moment the doctor sees another patient, it gets the screen with all the information, the medical history, the previous treatments by other doctors, other surgeons, and then the doctor can make a decision and can operate right there, right then with that person, and then move on to another context. That is because the machines are now taking care of the knowledge. And we're going to see more of that also in software, where the machines know everything about the software projects, the structure, the architecture, what was done before, by whom, etc. And then it is much easier for us to come in and do specific tasks on those software projects, like pilots going into an airplane, flying the plane, and then going out and go somewhere else. So similar idea, and that makes organizations very flexible. If you're able to do that, if you have that talent of reteaming, flexibility is worth a lot in the future. So another interesting effect is that the AIs are becoming our bosses. We already see that at companies like, well, Amazon has people working in warehouses that are managed by algorithms, basically. You see that at gig platforms like Uber or delivery service platforms, etc., where the gig workers, the freelancers, are managed by computers, by algorithms. They call this algorithmic management. And actually, in other part of the world, in China, they already have quite a lot of experience with that. Chinese companies are reinventing the role of management by basically replacing the middle management layer to a large extent with platform software. So they delegate all the decision making to the employees, to the people on the teams, and they get information from the AIs. It is also the same at Tesla factories, where people can do whatever they want. The machine decides on the backlog priorities based on customer requests that come in from outside, and then people choose what they want to work on. Who wants to work on the paint job? Who wants to work on the wheels? I would like to do this today. Who is with me? And then you voluntarily sign up for tasks, for objectives, and you get that work done. And then you sign off and you go to the next thing, maybe in another team. So there's extensive reteaming also happening in Tesla factories, for example. Chinese companies were ahead of us in that sense. And they call this algorithmic management, and that is something we have to get used to. Now, some people find that scary. Other people say, yay, I trust digital bosses more than I trust human bosses. Actually, this is called automation bias, where we have more faith in the honesty of algorithms than we do in the honesty of middle managers. And I think some people actually have a good point. Like, I am from Northern Europe, as you may know. I am not used to negotiate over prices on a market, for example. So when I go on vacation to a country in Southern Europe, and I'm in a market, there is usually the case that you're expected to negotiate over the price, over something. So when I want to have something on the market and the vendor says this costs €5, I don't trust the vendor, because I think probably he wants to rip me off. Probably because he sees I'm a tourist, probably it should be cheaper than €5. So I don't trust automatically the person in front of me. However, when the price is on a label, on the packaging, then I trust the price, because that the label doesn't care. The label doesn't trying to rip me off. This is the same principle, where sometimes we do not trust other people that we don't really know well, but we do trust the algorithms, the systems, because they have no reason to be all political and trying to rip us off and so on. This is called automation bias. So we'll see how that plays out with algorithmic management, but that is definitely a trend that we're going to see more of. There's another thing that is interesting that I picked up recently. Someone at the end of a conference asked me, "Hey, Jurgen, what about the interns? What about the junior software engineers? What about them? Because they find it more difficult now to get a job because the seniors, they use AIs instead of juniors to do the simpler tasks. They use Claude, they use Copilot, GitHub Copilot, and so on, while usually they gave work to juniors. So it is more difficult for juniors to get programming jobs. And exactly this problem was described in this book, The Skill Code by Matt Bean. He said, there is a short-term case for cutting the novices out of the action. Because the novices are slow, they make mistakes, they are not good enough. And actually, the AIs are already better at coding and writing and doing other things than the junior software engineers and the junior writers. So there is an incentive for the seniors, the professionals, to prefer the use of AIs. But that raises a question. Who will be the next generation of software engineers? If the juniors don't get any work, you do not have any seniors next year. Right? You see the problem? They found this issue also in many other jobs, like lawyers, for example. Usually, the senior lawyers use junior lawyers to do stupid jobs like writing agreements and contracts and stuff because it's boring work. Nowadays, you can delegate that to ChatGPT. It can create a legal agreement for you. You don't need a junior lawyer for that. So what are the junior lawyers going to do? How do they become senior lawyers? This is something that you have to think about in the organization because there is a short-term benefit for cutting out the juniors and replacing them with AI. That makes you faster in the short term. But in the long term, you could be killing your company. And that is, of course, a problem because you need new humans as part of the workforce. So think about that. The jobless juniors is an issue. I have lots of things that I write about in my book. This is just a buffet of trends that I discussed during this presentation. And another one is that of the value streams that are disintegrating. The pace of change keeps going up. Things go faster and faster. And at the same time, things get less predictable. Imagine that if you have lots of different types of customers and each customer wants something else and you can basically give them that because you have a very flexible workforce, then the value stream, the predictable step-by-step value stream starts to break up. That is described in this book, Human plus Machine, where they say businesses need to shift from seeing processes as a collection of sequential tasks. In the age of AI, processes become more dynamic, more adaptable. So the value stream should not be a collection of nodes along a straight line. It is more like a network of reconnectable nodes. And I noticed that myself, that the linear model for the process, it is not longer going to work. I wrote a post a couple of months ago, Agile is undead, because there were lots of Agile is dead articles written by other people last year. I thought I needed to respond to that. I don't think Agile is dead, but it is also not really as alive as it was before. So maybe Agile is undead. It's a bit like a zombie. And we have to find a way forward. And that is, we have to reinvent what it means to be agile in the age of AI. So one very concrete example is the Scrum board or the task board. What is that traditional task board? Well, it is a prediction of how we believe that the next work items are going to move through a couple of sequential steps. That is a prediction that we have. That is an assumption. Well, this is going to break up. This is going to disappear because every customer at Tesla wants something else. Maybe in the future, every book will be printed per person. So there are going to be lots of personas that we have to adapt to. So the predictability of the process is going to disintegrate. I already noticed that myself in my own work because, for example, sometimes I have an idea and I make a blog post, and then the blog post later becomes a video, and then later becomes part of an e-learning lesson. Sometimes something begins as a book chapter, and then later becomes a blog post. Or I first begin with a video, and then later that becomes a blog post, and so on. So it can go in all directions. I have tried to describe that with a workflow. I gave up. I was not able to create a Kanban board with a linear sequential process because it went in all directions, my process, depending on the idea, depending on the text, depending for whom I was creating something. So yeah, agile is undead. Agile, we have to be more agile than ever. That is what I agree with other people, because artificial intelligence is going to just put even more pressure on companies to be faster, to deliver more value to more customers, create better experiences. But the practices that we used as part of Scrum and as part of Kanban, we'll probably have to replace them because the traditional task board in the future is not going to work anymore. Doing customer demos once per week or once per 2 weeks, give up on that. You have AIs who can give you feedback, and then you will be much faster if you use AIs, and then maybe save the customer conversation to once per month instead of every week, for example. So these things are changing now with AI, and teams getting smaller and people reteaming per objective and so on. We see lots of new practices. At the same time, there is the question, do we get a better work-life balance because of AI? I told you there are new features in ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity that do research for me. Now, this is something that usually costs me a few hours of my time to research a topic. Like, I want to know something about division of labor. Okay, well, that's going to cost me 2 or 3 hours to the browsing of websites and make notes and read articles and look up a book or two. Now I can get that done in 2 or 3 minutes, thanks to my digital teammates. So I save 2 or 3 hours of my time on research. What am I going to do with that time? Does that mean that I now finally have time to look at all those TV shows on Netflix that I have on my backlog that I still want to watch? Or do I use that time to write another blog post and maybe write more than I did in the past? This is called the Red Queen race, because not only me has access to deep research, everyone else has the same access to the same tools. So my colleagues and competitors in the industry, they also use AI. And if they go faster because of artificial intelligence, I have to go faster too, just to stay at the same pace as everyone else. And that means I still don't have time to watch Netflix. I will just feel busier than ever. So it is clear that AI will significantly alter the concept of work and time. But what is not clear is how the extra time that AI provides will be used. Will we feel more relaxed in the future, or will we actually feel more anxious, more even busier than ever? I'm not sure. I feel very busy right now, even though I have 6 AIs working with me. It's not like I have more time, free time available. But we have to do this. We have to work with AIs in a human AI collaboration, because in field after field we find that humans working with AI co-intelligence, they outperform all but the best humans working without an AI. So a writer with AI writes better books than a writer without AI. A software engineer with AI can write better software than a software engineer without AI, and so on. As long as they don't delegate everything to the machine, because then the quality could go down. I mean, I don't give ChatGPT the instruction to write my whole book, because then you have a book that is not as good as I would usually do. No, it's a collaboration. Some things I delegate, other things I do, and together we make things better. That's a co-intelligence. But it also means that the way we do our work is shifting. Some of you may be aware of the concept of the T-skilled person. That is a word that we have used for quite a long time. The T-skilled person means you have a specialization, like engineering, for example. That is the vertical leg. And then horizontally, you also know a little bit about design, you know a little bit about product management or something, and that gives you the letter T. Well, that's a thing of the past, because AIs take over one specialization after the other. Like AIs are already doing the slides. All the slides you see here are done by DALL-E. I don't make slides anymore. I just generate an image, put it there, and put a title on it, done. And people say, it looks better than everything I did before. So it saves me a lot of time. I was a PowerPoint specialist, not anymore. I don't care about PowerPoint anymore. It's the same with research. AI is taking over research. I don't have to be a research specialist anymore. So I have to find one specialization after the other to replace the previous ones that have been taken over by AI. And actually, that means that I become a generalist. I do the things that are wide across multiple specializations. This is described in this book, Range by David Epstein. He said, the bigger the picture, the more unique the potential human contribution. Our greatest strength as humans is the opposite of narrow specialization. It is the ability to integrate broadly. So where we contribute in organizations in the future is to connect the dots between everything that's going on and use multiple AIs for different specializations. Like I use an AI for image generation, I use AI for video, I use AI for this and for that, and those are all specialists. And I feel like I am the orchestrator. Maybe I am the director of an orchestra of AIs, basically. I am the generalist here, and we can call that the M-skilled person. So M is more like you have multiple legs in multiple temporary specializations, but the more important thing is the horizontal part that puts it all, that connects it all together. And then where do we find our role as temporary specialists in the future? Well, people who know a lot about AI, they are guaranteed to have a job in the next few years. So the technical people who understand how AI works, for sure. And then there are people who can work with their hands, athletes, artisans, those all guaranteed to have a job, because robots are not there yet. Like I got a haircut last week. I don't expect a robot to give me a haircut next year. That's not going to happen. That will be a human. I'm very certain, because it's very delicate work that needs to be done as a hairdresser. And communicators. I'm a public speaker. I do not expect ChatGPT to go on stage to give a speech at a conference. Maybe at some point that will happen, but not this year and not next year. So being a communicator, that is also where you can still specialize. Our emphasis as humans is on the soft skills like creativity, emotional intelligence, and bringing ideas together. And this is where the human touch plays a role and where the generalists will thrive. You see it here again, the generalists. They have the best jobs in the future. The specialists have to take care that their job might be replaced by an AI at some point. Either way, we have to stay in the loop. Because we cannot trust AIs to do everything, because sometimes, or actually quite a lot of the time, they do the jobs worse than you would do yourself. And sometimes you have to take over and say, oh, this is bad. They might hallucinate, they might make wrong decisions. So you have to be in the loop while you check what they're doing. So workers that don't work with AI, they're going to find their skills become obsolete quite rapidly. It is important that we work with AI to stay employed and stay productive. And also we have to keep checking what the AIs are doing. Are they doing good work or not? That's our responsibility. It's my responsibility when I make books. I check everything that the AIs are doing to see whether I agree and whether they are doing a good job. However, it does mean that we have to stay skilled and talented in the things that we want the AIs to do. So I'll give you an example. I sometimes at a conference ask people, how many of you are not able to navigate around a city without Google Maps? And then half of the hands go up. This is a well-known problem. Many people have lost their navigation skills. They don't know south from the north, from the west, from the east. They have no idea where they are. They rely on their phone. So they lost their spatial navigation skills in cities. That is because we delegated all the navigation to the machines. Is that a problem? Maybe not, unless you allow your navigator to have you end up in a canal while you're driving your car or something like that. So you have to take care. But overall, it is fine. But for me, as a writer, for example, I cannot just give all the writing jobs to AI, because then I lose my writing skills. And when I lose my writing skills, I cannot check anymore if the AI is doing a good job. They also see this in other disciplines. Doctors, for example, they have to keep doing things themselves, even though there are robots available that can do the jobs for them, because they have to check if the robots are doing a good job or not. And they cannot check that if they do not also keep doing the work themselves. It's the same with airline pilots. The pilots have to keep practicing their own skills. That's why they keep doing training, they keep doing simulations, etc. Because the pilots on an airplane have the responsibility to intervene when they see that the computers are not doing a good job. And the problem is, pilots lose the ability to intervene if they do not keep practicing their job themselves. So this is important also in engineering. For software engineers, we see that problem already, that there's a lot of really, really bad code being created by AIs with software engineers who lost the talent to do the work themselves. And then they cannot judge the quality of the code that the AI has generated. And that means that there's a lot of crap being made right now with AIs writing code, because the engineers, they stop writing code themselves. This is called de-skilling. We have to understand that there's this risk of us losing the talent to check what the AIs are doing. Last couple of comments. As I noticed myself, I said in the beginning, humans are becoming the bottleneck. Our brains are too slow. There's only so much we can do. That also is an interesting opportunity because attention of humans is the valuable resource. Like I could create, maybe in the future, I could make multiple books per year, but who is going to read those books? People have so much information, they're drowning in work. So actually what it becomes very valuable is our attention. We still only have 24 hours per day. We only have so many minutes per day that we can spend on reading books, watching TV, listening to podcasts, or whatever. So there's the attention economy is going to be very important. That is one reason, for example, why Substack has become so popular over the last 2 years. Because basically what we do is we pay premium price for the authentic experience of someone who wrote blog post. There is so much crap on the internet created by artificial intelligence that I actually pay a couple of authors on Substack because I want to read their point of view. I want to read their authentic opinion because they're experts or whatever. And I want the insurance, the assurance that I have a text from an actual human being that is given to me, because my attention span is short. I only have so many minutes per day, and I don't want to waste it on crap that was generated by AI. So we pay premium price actually for the human touch, and we're probably also going to see that with in other industries, like in hospitals, for example. I predict that at some point, the people who pay premium price for health insurance, they get the human doctor. The people who do not pay the premium price, they get the robots, because the robots will be everywhere. They will be cheap at some point. And what is valuable is the human experience. And the human doctors will be rare. They will be sought after by hospitals and patients. And then we have to pay extra to see a real human doctor. I think we already see that with blog posts. We will going to see that in other industries as well. All right, nearly there. I'm going to skip these two parts. I'm going to start wrapping up with the last couple of slides. So I have been thinking about what comes next. That was mentioned one ago in the past, which is treating people like machines as parts in a factory, for example. Then there was Management 2.0 with everyone in a business suit and people trying to make careers with making money and with bonuses and everything. I call that Management 2.0. Management 3.0 was my contribution. Is more democratic. You dress whatever you want. Work is delegated to the workers. It's much more agile. It's agile. Some people would call that agile leadership. It's basically the same thing. But what comes next? The next phase is going to be that our teams, human teams, get smaller. We work together with machines, with artificial intelligence. We do reteaming much more often than we did in the past. Maybe we will co-own the companies that we work for with distributed autonomous organizations. We will have machine bosses, digital bosses, algorithms that give us work, and we can choose whatever we want to work on, like Uber drivers and freelance workers on gig platforms. They can choose what they want or don't want to do. And then they're managed by the machines. That's the kind of management that we're going to see now. So how do we call that? Well, first I thought management 4.0, but boring, because yeah, if I have to keep updating version numbers, we will have to do that faster and faster probably. So I thought I'd discuss with my team and said, no, let's not do 4.0, 5.0, 6.0. Let's just have one new name for management of the future. How about management until the year 3000? I said. That gives us a bit of time. Management for this millennium. And then the team said, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds good. Management 3000. So we were talking about that, and we used that for a while. But then we started shortening it to something that sounded much better, actually. We started calling it M3K, Management 3000, management for this millennium, the third millennium, for the next 976 years. That's quite a lot of time that we still have. So from now on, I call it M3K, management until the year 3000. There's a lot of stuff happening, and I don't want to keep updating version numbers anymore. So everything that I did with my teams at the Management 3.0 company and the Unfix company, they joined forces. We now call it M3K. My new book, Human Robot Agent, is the first book that comes out under this brand name, M3K. If you want to have a free preview, please go to this URL, m3k.ai/book. If you sign up to the newsletter, you get a free preview of the book, and the actual book comes out in a couple of weeks. And I want to end with the last couple of words. AI is a general purpose technology. There is no single manual. You can use it for anything you want. Like I use AI for cooking, because why bother going to the bookcase and get a cookbook when I can tell ChatGPT, look, I have onions, I have tomatoes, I have coriander, I have pasta. What can I make? And then ChatGPT gives me a recipe, and it's actually pretty good. So do you have this? Do you have that? Yeah, I have it. Okay, well, then I suggest you make this recipe. I don't need the cookbooks anymore. So, but that's just one example. There are 1,000 other examples of what you can do with artificial intelligence these days. As I said, the machines now have the knowledge. The whole concept of the knowledge worker, that's behind us. We don't have to store knowledge in our heads anymore. And some people have asked me, Jurgen, what is the future role of the Scrum Master? What is the future role of the Agile coach? Well, if you are the kind of Agile coach or Scrum Master who explains Scrum to people, your job is dead. Because ChatGPT can explain Scrum better than you can. And it is available 24 hours a day, 7 days per week. So don't compete with ChatGPT. Don't compete with the AIs. They can give the knowledge of what story points are. They can give the knowledge about the Scrum guide and everything. Don't go there. Don't compete with the AIs. You have to move to wisdom. What is the wise thing to do in this organization? And you probably are aware of the hierarchy: data, information, knowledge, wisdom. Well, machines have already taken care of data. They have taken care of information. Now they go another step. They have making the step to knowledge. All the knowledge is in the AIs. We don't have to store it in our heads anymore. The only thing left to us humans is wisdom. What is the wise thing to do? Is it wise to always use AIs? Maybe we should give the juniors a job every now and then. Is it wise to delegate everything to ChatGPT? Or maybe we should do some of the work ourselves still, because there's a risk of de-skilling, losing the talent to do the work ourselves. Is it wise to generate all the code with Claude or Copilot? Maybe we should keep training our own skills, like pilots of airplanes also keep training their piloting skills, even though the machines do nearly everything. What is the wise thing to do? That's your job as a Scrum Master and Agile coach, because that's what your teams need. They need the wise person to make the right decision with the right information, the right knowledge in the right context. So that's it. That was 55 minutes. Feel free to sign up for this book, Human Robot Agent. It comes out on March 7th. There is a book launch event on March 6th. So if you sign up to unfix.com/newsletter or just follow me online, you will hear about the book launch on March 6th. It's going to be fun. I'm pretty sure all about the new fundamentals for AI-driven leadership with algorithmic management. So thank you so much for listening. And yeah, maybe there's one or two questions that we can answer.
Thank you so much, Jürgen, for this amazing talk. And we have two comments here. From Ivan. It says, today there are still companies with management 1.0 and 2.0 practices, of course. And the question, yes, we have from Ivan as well. What do you think of the recent merger between Management 3.0 and Anfix?
Well, the first question, yes, there are still companies with Management 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, but the pressure will be bigger now for them to change than it was ever before. Because of artificial intelligence, companies will be much faster. Like I am writing much faster now, so there's pressure on other writers, even though they were resistant. As I said in the beginning, many writers are against using AI. They're going to be outdated. They will have to adapt. There is no way back. And it's the same for organizations. So the ones who were able to stay stuck in mention 1.0, mention 2.0, they will feel increased pressure to be more agile because of AI. I think AI is a benefit for the agile community, because what we were not able to achieve as agile coaches and consultants, AI is doing that for us to force those companies to change. The second question about what do I think about Unfix and Management 3.0 merging, that was my idea. I said we have to merge because it is a very difficult market, and it makes sense to put these ideas together. So the Management 3.0 team and Unfix team, they reached out to each other, and we're joining forces under the M3K brand. So that all started with me. So yeah, I think it's a good thing.
Okay, great. Mari asks, how do you see the role of leaders evolving, and what skills will be most critical in this new environment?
Yeah, so one thing that I sometimes talk about is the wicked problems, the complex problems. What we delegate to the machines are the complicated problems. Like machines can now solve the most complicated mathematical formulas and things like that. The problems that have a solution, machines are better at that. What machines are not good at still is the human problems. Like, what do you do with a team that is demotivated? AI cannot solve that problem for you. You will need a leader for that. What do you do when you have to decide on how much to pay which people? Compensation. How are we going to pay these people? You cannot just leave that decision to an AI. That is a human decision that you have with other humans. So the time for managers and leaders that they spend on these complex problems will increase, and they will spend fewer and fewer time on the complicated problems, because we can delegate the complicated problems to artificial intelligence. It also means that we probably need fewer managers and leaders in the future, but the ones that we do have, they will spend most of their time on the complex problem solving, on emotional intelligence, and things like that the AIs cannot do.
Thank you, Jürgen, again for your amazing insights. And Ruben, if you wanna say some last words before the next session.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Okay, you have technical issues, I guess.
So much
But yeah.
for your help for your community. I will see you to the next event in the future in the community. Okay. Well, welcome to the game in the future. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you too. Have a great day.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Bueno, Vanessa, abrimos las salas. Podemos iniciar ya, entrar a las salas.
Ok. Bueno, las siguientes charlas, voy a dar.
Voy a presentarla, aquí voy a compartirla.
Sí, vale, ok. Creo que pueden ir pasando ya, las salas están abiertas.